So hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And in this video, I'm gonna be talking about my experience of using Hackintosh on my own laptop. Now, I have been running Hackintosh on my laptop for the past 3 weeks, and the experience has been pretty interesting. And I just really wanted to share how that entire thing has been going on for me. So this is going to be a two-part series. Where in the first part, I actually talk about how I got the Macintosh up and running on this laptop, and in the second part, I'm going to be talking about how life has been ever since I've started to use macOS as a Hackintosh. So let's get started. First and foremost, I briefly wanted to touch upon what Hackintoshing really is for those of you who don't know what it is all about. So as you know, Windows and Linux can run on basically any hardware that you throw these guys on, but the same cannot be said for macOS. macOS by default requires an Apple hardware for it to be running, and the process of circumventing these measures to get it running on hardware which is not approved by Apple is basically Hackintoshing. Now, about legality of this thing, it is in a gray area for legalities because Apple has not really said that they don't want you to do that, because if they really did not want you to do that, then they could have easily shut down the services and the forums that support these things, but they really haven't. So it's totally up to you. That's all I'm gonna say. Now, let's talk about the hardware that I'm running this Hackintosh setup on. So my laptop is Lenovo Ideapad V310-14IKB. Now you can look this up, or if you want to know what its specifications are, so here they are. It has an Intel Core i3 7100U. It's a Kaby Lake processor released in 2013. I don't really know what gigahertz it has, but it is a pretty uh, power efficient sort of chip. Besides that, I've got 12 gigs of RAM, and I've got an Intel HD 620 graphics. I've got an half a terabyte of hard disk storage, as well as an Intel Wi-Fi card and Realtek audio, and just generic stuff besides that. Also, an ELAN touchpad driver. I'm gonna get on that later on. So those are my hardware configurations. Now, if you have ever tried getting Hackintosh running, then you must have come across these terms as EFI folder as well as kex and what these are all about. So EFI folder basically is like the folder that allows you to boot into macOS, right? It's the folder that allows your computer to really look into Apple sort of hardware, and it allows the Macintosh to think that it's working on an Apple based hardware. So there are two type of configurators that allows the EFI files to be running. First one is OpenCore and second one is Clover. Clover is relatively outdated now. People have been switching into OpenCore, and I too also am using OpenCore as well. Now, talking about the kex refers to as kernel extensions. These are, you can think of basically as drivers that allow Apple's macOS to recognize your particular piece of hardware to get it working. So with these things in sync, you can get your Hackintosh working. Now, in my case, I was able to get a lot of my EFI files from the web itself. I basically typed what my hardware specifications were, and I was trying to look for some EFI files, and I was able to get one which was not exactly for my particular hardware, but it was sort of in the same ballpark. So I was able to get a lot of files, the drivers for display, the drivers for CPU, the drivers for, as well as I would say battery as well, and other sort of ACPI stuff. I was able to get them working from the scratch itself. The OS that I decided to go with this particular install was Apple's Big Sur. It was released in 2020. It's actually a fairly old version, but for me, I felt like it would be the right choice because it looks fairly modern even now, but at the same time, it's also not too hardware hungry, so I can run it on a relatively low end hardware as well. So that was my choice. So initially when I booted it, I could not get the trackpad to be working, and the Wi-Fi also wasn't working, though the Ethernet was working, so I was able to get it installed. So the process of trial and error started. I looked up on YouTube about ELAN drivers, ELAN kex for Apple, and I eventually found one. I installed it, and guess what? It started working really nicely. I was able to even get the gestures working and everything. So it has been a pretty smooth sailing ever since. Now let's jump on to the things that I found to be working. So The display brightness has been working pretty well. The Wi-Fi works very well. The sleep and suspend function also works pretty darn well, and the gestures also have been working really well. And yeah, a lot of things have been really well working, and the things that haven't really been working are airdrop, and sometimes the Bluetooth decides to crash randomly. So in those cases I have to reboot it to get the Bluetooth working, but not an issue. I can totally live with that. Now some bonus things, I also got the FaceTime and iMessage working on this as well. I'm able to make FaceTime calls as well, and I'm able to text my friends on iMessage. So that's also a very nice thing that I was able to do with this. So yeah guys, that has been it for this video. In the next part I'm going to be talking about how the experience of using macOS has been, how I find it different from macOS and Linux, and towards the end I might even talk about what do I honestly prefer. So yeah, that's it. Take care. Bye.